Republicans are claiming a win on the tax reform bill, the most drastic rewrite of the tax code in 30 years. We'll break down the key elements and what it means for schools. And bracing for more immigration raids in the new year. The San Diego hotline offering support and advice.
My feeling is that it is a legal crop in California. Why should we prohibit our farmers in the city of Oceanside from growing a legal crop?
Getting ready for recreational pot in California and the challenge for North County growers who want to cash in. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. The heavy lifting is over for Republicans who wanted a major tax reform bill. All that's missing now is the signature of President Donald Trump.
On this vote, the yeas are 224 and the nays are 201. The motion is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
The Tax Cuts and Job Act is passed along a mostly party line vote. The Senate approved a revised bill last night, followed by the House, which had to revote due to a technicality. President Trump and Republicans later held a celebration on the White House lawn. Not all Republicans were on board, though. Darrell Issa of Vista was one of 12 Republicans who crossed party lines to vote against the House bill. He's expected to be in another close race for re-election next year. The first effects for most Americans will likely be in their paychecks. The amount of money withheld is expected to take effect in February. Other key elements of the tax bill include the doubling of the child tax credit. Corporate rate cuts will be permanent. The bill repeals the insurance mandate in the Affordable Care Act and allows for oil drilling in the Alaska National Wildlife Refuge. The overall estimated cost is $1.5 trillion. Here's a reaction from congressional leaders and President Trump.
They say, oh, once people learn of what this is in this bill, they'll all be for it. Well, the Koch brothers have already spent tens of millions of dollars trying to persuade people this is a good bill. And the majority of Americans, by most polls, think it's a bad bill. And the reason is very simple. The suspicions of the American people that the Republican Party is helping the wealthy and the powerful corporations and not the middle class has been confirmed in this bill.
You've ended the overregulation of the American economy. And that, coupled with what we did last night and what the House finished this morning, means America is going to start growing again. Thank you, Mr. President, for all you're doing.
This was the culmination of a few months' work, but they've been working on getting this done, whether it's Mitch or Paul or Kevin or Orrin. They have been working on this for years and years. And I just want to turn around and I want to thank them all. They are very, very special people.
Here to break down what the tax bill could mean for schools is KPBS education reporter Megan Burks.
There were a couple of major scares for educators as the tax bill took shape. The first, that teachers would no longer be able to deduct personal income they spend on classroom supplies. The second, that student loan borrowers would no longer be able to deduct loan interest. Both of those provisions did not make it into the final bill, so all good there. But educators remain worried about the implications for across-the-board education funding. If the bill doesn't spur economic growth and the government has to start making cuts, already meager special education funding and grants aimed at closing the achievement gap could take a hit. And then there's the new cap on federal write-offs on your state and local tax burden.
It certainly makes it more difficult to go to taxpayers as we did, statewide with Prop 30 and Prop 55, and as we've done here in San Diego with our bond measures, and ask taxpayers to make a sacrifice and invest, because now you're going to get punished because those deductions are capped or not available in the way that they were before.
Now, one boon for teachers, they stand to pocket several hundred extra dollars based on the bill's individual tax cuts. But the teachers I'm hearing from are still focused on that bigger picture.
It's very scary. Public schooling is tricky in itself in that there's always a fear of funding being cut. And so with this new tax bill, it brings on an alarm because there might be even more in the long term.
Broadly, public school teachers also aren't too keen on the expansion of 529 savings accounts to benefit private K-12 education. But a lobbyist for the California Catholic Conference points out that those accounts can be used for much more than private school tuition.
Books, online educational materials, tuition, tutoring outside the home, dual enrollment at a college, being able to use educational therapies and diagnostic services for your children. So it does help both public school families as well as Catholic school families.
One final piece of this tax overhaul, it could make it more difficult for districts to refinance school infrastructure bonds at lower interest rates, and that means taxpayers could pay more over the life of a bond. Megan Burks, KPBS News.
We have more of our coverage on the newly passed tax reform bill at kpbs.org. Plus, PBS NewsHour will also have more of what this means for all Americans. The next priority for President Donald Trump might be immigration. During a cabinet meeting before the passage of the tax bill, he talked about funding his border wall project and possibly a trip to San Diego to view the prototypes.
Help from the Border Patrol and from the ICE agents. We're getting their input on the wall because who knows better than them. But we want vision. We want to be able to see through who's on the other side of the wall. And we have some wonderful prototypes that have been put up. And I may be going there very shortly to look at them in their final form.
A DACA fix won't be part of a must-pass bill to avoid a government shutdown. The Washington Post reports Democrats are backing off their demands. The spending bill is only expected to last for a few weeks, meaning the issue will come up again soon. Democrats are pushing the DREAM Act as a long-term fix for immigrants brought to the U.S. as children so they can stay in the U.S. legally. Immigrants in San Diego now have a 24-hour hotline where they can get legal advice and report Border Patrol checkpoints, immigration raids, and arrest. The hotline was launched by faith organizations, the ACLU, and other nonprofits. KPBS Frontiers reporter Jean Guerrero has more.
Volunteers on the hotline will monitor immigration enforcement activity in San Diego and offer emergency assistance to anyone detained by immigration officials. Katya Ortiz of the San Diego Organizing Project says it was launched ahead of an expected ramp-up in raids and checkpoints. The Trump administration says it plans to ramp up enforcement in 2018. This year, ICE apprehensions increased 25%.
So the phone number is 619-536-0823. Some people don't want to go out the door to go to the store because they're fear that they might not come back home. So we want to help them. We want to help them reduce that and let them know that we're here for them.
More than 200 volunteers are part of the coalition operating the hotline. They launched the Rapid Response Network last night at a sermon hall next to St. Jude's Shrine of the West, handing out informational pamphlets and talking about the initiative. They'll soon be going from door to door to inform people about the hotline. For now, the help on the hotline comes in Spanish and English, but volunteers hope to incorporate other languages. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
New changes today for San Diego's Democratic Party. Labor leader Mickey Kasparian has stepped down from the party's Central Committee. This comes a week after a new lawsuit accusing him of sexual assault. His leadership ended with the Regional Labor Council earlier this year. Also this year, another female worker accused him of forcing her into a sexual relationship. He emailed the committee chair saying that he did not have time to be an active participant and that another alternate should be selected to replace him. The signature gathering continues in an effort to allow San Diego State University to expand into Mission Valley. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has the story.
Backers of a plan to let San Diego State University redevelop the Mission Valley Stadium site say their signature gathering efforts remain on track. Now, the group wants at least 100,000 signatures by the end of December in an effort to land 71,000 valid signatures for that ballot measure. Friends of SDSU wants to be on the same ballot as Soccer City. That's an initiative from a rival group that hopes to leverage the redevelopment to lure a Major League Soccer team to San Diego. Both groups want to build a sports stadium, housing, a river park, and commercial properties. SDSU booster Kim Kilkenny says a healthy university is good for the region.
What this does is allow the university the opportunity to expand, allows the region to continue to grow its economy because we have more educated students out in the working environment.
The Soccer City initiative is already qualified for November's ballot. If the SDSU West proposal ends up on the same ballot, the measure with the most votes, over 50%, would prevail. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
More people than ever are trying to get into San Diego State University. The school says it received a record number of applications for the upcoming school year, with more than 68,000 freshman applicants and more than 25,000 transfer applicants. It's the first time the overall number has topped 90,000, up 11% from last year. Acceptance letters will be sent out in March. In just more than a week, a new law takes effect that will give people some peace of mind when parking. Cities will no longer be allowed to issue parking tickets to vehicles parked at broken meters. Right now, that's not the case. Free parking will be allowed for the length of time posted, or up to 4 hours if no limit is posted.
You pull in, you get all your stuff out, you go over to the parking meter and it's broken, and you're going, what am I going to do now? Find another place to park? All it says, you can park there legally.
Cities will also not be allowed to block a public parking space because the meter is not working. For some San Diego County farmers struggling to stay in business, the newly legalized crop of marijuana brings the promise of potential new profits. KPBS North County reporter Allison St. John says Oceanside is expected to vote early in the new year whether to allow its cultivation within city limits. Earlier this year, she filed this report.
Mike Milano's family has been farming in Morrow Hills in North Oceanside for more than 40 years. But Milano recently left his position as CEO of the family business to go out on his own. Now he's researching greenhouses and lobbying for a new crop to cultivate.
We believe that the state of California has said that cannabis is a commercial crop, commercial agricultural crop, and as a longtime farmer, we believe that we should be allowed to farm that in compliance with state laws.
The city of Oceanside still has over 3,000 acres of agricultural land, more than other incorporated cities in San Diego County. Local farmers and residents would like to keep it that way. The question is how to keep agriculture economically viable.
If we're not allowed to change into other crops, it will be difficult for us to be competitive over the next several years. Many of these farms will be gone and turned into houses.
Oceanside City Councilman Jerry Kern, a Republican, sits on the city's medical marijuana ad hoc committee, which is now considering how to regulate marijuana.
I voted against them both. I voted against the medical marijuana back in the 90s. I voted against the recreational use this time. But 57% of the people in the city of Oceanside voted for it.
Oceanside residents David and Amber Newman know public opinion is swinging their way. They own a state-licensed indoor nursery that grows cuttings for patients who want to grow their own medicinal marijuana.
And this right here is what most of our patients start with. But basically, these are cuts off of a mother plant. So, and then our members will take this and they'll plant it in their garden. They can do hydro, they can go into soil. Whatever works best for them. Everybody kind of has their own technique.
The Newmans threatened to put a citizens' initiative on the ballot if Oceanside City Council did not consider regulating marijuana to make it legal locally.
With the city being now willing to actually have the conversation, we decided to shelve our initiative and kind of pull it back and basically do our best to be able to work with the city instead of being confrontational and working against them.
The Newmans say several hundred patients rely on them for cuttings, but right now there is nowhere in the county to grow it legally.
No. Not at this time. The unincorporated areas of San Diego County actually did have licensed cultivation options available until the last election. And the new Board of Supervisors went in and basically took all that back.
Councilman Kern, who is running for a seat on the County Board of Supervisors next year, says developing regulations locally is a better way to go.
I think the county was wrong when they said let's just ban it, because that opens themselves up through the initiative process that they lose all control. If somebody puts a voter's initiative forward and it passes, then you're not in the driver's seat anymore.
Kern is optimistic his city council will be on board with marijuana cultivation by the end of this year.
My feeling is that it is a legal crop in California. Why should we prohibit our farmers in the city of Oceanside from growing a legal crop?
A report presented to the Oceanside City Council suggested while avocados yield just over $8,000 an acre, cannabis can yield more than $4 million an acre. Back in Morrow Hills, Joel Weisberger is anxious to develop open greenhouses to cultivate marijuana. His indoor nursery in Vista was busted, but charges were dropped because he had all the correct state paperwork. Now he's working with the San Diego Farm Bureau, which officially supports developing local regulations to make commercial cultivation of marijuana legal.
Growers, they don't want to spend $30,000 a month on electricity. They do it because they have to, because it's secure and hidden. But if you could grow the same quality product and use the power of the sun, it not only brings overhead down, but it's definitely more environmental.
David Newman says farmers and growers are watching the outcome of this debate carefully.
If the council decides to vote no when all is said and done, we will have to put our initiative into play, which will mean gathering signatures and going ahead and putting it onto a 2018 ballot.
One way or another, Oceanside could well be at the forefront of legalizing local marijuana cultivation, not only in industrial warehouses, but also on agricultural land. Allison St. John, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, Republicans celebrate a much-needed victory with the tax plan headed to the president's desk. That's coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Stronger winds are returning to Ventura and Santa Barbara counties, where the Thomas Fire continues to burn. Fire crews have made progress in recent days. The fire is now 60% contained and is at 272,000 acres. That's the second largest in California history, behind San Diego's Cedar Fire in 2003. A firefighter from Escondido died in the Thomas Fire last week. Fire dangers will remain high for parts of San Diego County over the next couple of days. Erin Calandra has more in tonight's forecast.
Thank you, Ebony. You can see that our winds are going to start kicking up again. Here we are, Thursday, 10 o'clock, the interior areas, Borrego Springs, Mount Laguna. It's already a bit gusty. Those winds are going to shift off to the west, and they're going to become more intense Friday morning. That's when they're going to start dying down, and throughout the day on Friday, it's going to be relatively calm, but we're still going to be in a high fire danger. Today through Friday, it remains south of Fresno all the way down through south of San Diego County, which means we could have rapid fire growth. Sporadic power outages should be expected, and also blowing dust, so could have some problems there if you're traveling on the highways. Here's our satellite tonight. Some people are going to see some widespread but brief showers across San Diego County. Some people won't get wet at all, and others, well, an umbrella might be handy during that time. Here we are looking at the bigger picture. We have a cold front that is heading in our direction, and with that, we are going to see much cooler temperatures tonight. 47 degrees for our overnight low. It's going to be clear, and then taking a look across the region, staying clear for pretty much everyone. More clouds along the coast as usual. Temperatures in the interior areas in the 30s, and in Mount Laguna 26, Borrego Springs in the 40s, and then here we are Thursday. We have that cold front. It will now be to the south of us. Here it is. So we have this cold air coming down from the north. Temperatures right along the coast, they're not really going to move all too much, but the interior areas will certainly see a change. Oceanside tomorrow 64, San Diego 65, Poway 66, Borrego Springs 64, and Mount Laguna 39 degrees. And again, it's going to be very breezy out there, even windy at times. Here we are along the coast on Thursday and Friday. Even Saturday in the low 60s, but by the weekend, Sunday into Monday, nearly 70 degrees. Inland, we're in the 60s, but slowly getting warmer. Look at Monday, nearly 80 degrees with sunny skies. And in the mountains, it's cold Thursday, 39 degrees, but then slowly warming up by Christmas, 61 degrees for the high temperature. And in the deserts, we're in the 60s, bumping it up to the 70s. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra.
A former Olympic gymnast says she was forced to keep quiet about sexual abuse committed by a team doctor. Michaela Maroney is now suing the U.S. Olympic Committee and USA Gymnastics. Neither organization has offered a comment on the case. Maroney claims officials had her sign onto a financial settlement with a confidentiality clause. The team doctor, Larry Nasser, was recently sentenced to 60 years in prison. Maroney's alleged abuse was not part of the criminal case. An update on how Russian athletes will present themselves at the upcoming Winter Olympics. The logo that reads Olympic athlete from Russia was released today. The Olympic Committee banned Russia from competing due to a doping scandal. However, an estimated 200 athletes will be allowed to compete if they can prove they are clean. Computer science plays a big role in a game known for brute force. Whenever you turn on an NFL game, that yellow first down line helps fans follow the action. Frank Graff met with a team of scientists and technicians that make it happen.
An artist dreams of having tens of thousands of people view their work, their creations.
And then I'm making sure that my color is good, I'm making sure that the line is in the correct spot, and then I insert it, all before the director is getting ready to take the game camera.
More than 18 million people see Ian Prox's handiwork every week.
And you want to make sure that when you put it in, it has to be the exact right position, because then everyone at home is going to see that it's not right? So a little bit of pressure, right?
No pressure there.
Yeah.
The remote operations technician blends technology, computer science, and art to draw the first down line on Sunday Night Football, the NFL's biggest game of the week. That's right, the iconic yellow line. It's all up to him.
You have to do a lot of little things before the next play. So you got to make sure that you have your ball position and everything is ready to go before they come back to the game camera. Otherwise, the line's going to come in late.
The first down line may be the best known work of Durham-based SMT, but these days the company adds visual aids for most televised sports. Think strike zones in baseball, pointers for NASCAR drivers, the flight paths of golf balls.
For us, it really is about informing the viewer. It has to start with information and something that gives the viewer a piece of information that they wouldn't have otherwise, and putting it in a place where they can see it very easily.
It's a kind of television revolution. While technology now allows real-time data to be displayed, viewers must be comfortable with graphics constantly on the screen, and now being virtually inserted into a scene.
For us, just very logically, hey, we've now put something on the screen that people are used to seeing, but how about now we put it into the scene itself?
So just how does the first down line happen? It's all computer algorithms.
We have to build up a mathematical model. This is a very complex lens. It has 19 different elements in it of glass. And so we need to be able to build up a mathematical model. We get readings off of the lens that tell us a number of how it's zoomed and a number of how it's focused. We get readings back from the pan head that tell us how the lens is tilted and how it's panned. But we need to take those numbers and turn that into, hey, I'm looking at this area from the left 45 to the right 40, and I'm zoomed to this level so I see this much of the field. And that information can be used to build a mathematical model of how the camera sees the field.
The algorithm is sophisticated. It identifies various hues, saturations, and shades of color, in this case, the green of the field. It takes technicians about 3 hours to set up the cameras with the technology. There are usually 6 cameras used in an NFL game. But for all the technology, it's the technician that must enter the information into the system in about 10 seconds.
So essentially everything is in right now. So
Ian, let me give it a try.
So the ball, they just moved it down to the 14-yard line, right?
Right.
So what you want to do is you want to take the mouse. So I would immediately pull everything out, make sure everything's locked up together so it's automatically 10 yards. And then move it down, what is that, 30-yard line? So I move it down this way down the field to the 30. And so then you can go ahead and fade in your line of scrimmage. And then you go down here and make sure that it's 1st and 10. So you'll click on that third, the arrow, make it 1st. And then you fade in your feather. Yep. Bam.
Sweet!
There it is.
Of course, 3 plays were ready by the time I completed 1 graphic. You could call the first down line high-pressure art. So you do this, I mean, you do variations of that every
single play. Every single play, it is pretty much nonstop.
Now here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom on Morning Edition. After a massive wildfire devastated parts of Northern California, teachers at one school started the healing process with a homework assignment. And on Midday Edition, another alternative to the holiday menu, how to satisfy your sweet tooth without giving in to sugar cravings. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.